Hello and welcome back to this next instalment of our Green Stuff World team tutorials. You're looking down here at Green Stuff colour wheel. Today we're going to take a look at how we render the basic base tones for a cold theme. You can see here on the colour wheel we're looking at the cold side of the spectrum. So really simply I'm going to show you how I would approach laying down the base tones and the primary and secondary highlight on the areas of the model. We're going to use a technique which would be called universal highlighting, which is using similar highlight colours throughout. And we're starting the skin tone here now with a mix of dark beige, Green Stuff World dark beige, which is mixed 4:1 with Green Stuff World Mirage Blue. And the Mirage Blue is a very muted, cold blue, which gives us the opportunity to inject some of this low temperature theme into the skin. See, I'm going through here and just very gradually adding that. Now onto the material on this character's clothing. Now this is Chancellor Blue, Green Stuff World Chancellor Blue. Again, this is very cold. Blues are naturally cold anyway, as you saw from the colour wheel at the start. They're over in the cold side of the colour spectrum. And this blue actually has got a little tiny hint of purple in it, but it remains in the cool values. So Chancellor Blue is going to be the base tone here. You'll notice when you look back at the skin now, there's a very slight hint of that Mirage Blue to the skin, but it's almost hidden by the dark beige, but it's almost given us towards a colder grey. And that's a great base next to this blue. So don't forget, we're trying to render a theme here which gives us an overall feeling of a cold atmosphere or a cold character. And the universal highlighting will come in a little bit later on when we come back to this material, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so moving on up onto the shoulder armour here. This is Green Stuff World Ranger Green. And this Ranger Green is an interesting colour. It's towards a grey. The reason I like this as a base tone in a cold theme is because it allows us to inject something which is quite a stark contrast to the cloth material, but again remains in that cool area on the colour wheel that we looked at. So again, it's a cool colour. There's no warmth in there, there's no yellow in it, there's no red or orange in it. We're just going through there and very simply base coating the shoulder armour. We'll come back and highlight this with primary highlights afterwards. And now we're going to look at the hair. Now, this is quite an unusual choice for the hair. This is Arachnid Green. Arachnid Green again is got a very cool temperature. And we're going to go through and base coat all the hair. You'll see what I'm doing here is I'm intentionally choosing a palette which has got no super high contrast colours in it at the moment. Everything's very muted, everything's very dead. We're trying to keep that temperature range, control that temperature range, and keep everything in a very cool and muted area. There's no warmth at all in this. We're going to move on to another area shortly and I'll start to inject a little bit more temperature, but again I'll be showing you how I control that. So this now is Green Stuff World Komodo Khaki. Komodo Khaki is an interesting colour because when you lay it next to the very cold tones it starts to look warmer, but believe it or not, this is actually a cream or a biscuit colour which has got very little yellow in it. So when this dries to quite an inert cream colour, and although warmer, definitely is cooler in the cream tones. And we'll use a very cool cream afterwards to highlight this. So right now onto the interesting part. Back to our skin tone mix, which is Green Stuff World Dark Beige and Green Stuff World Mirage Blue. And now we're going to gradually add Mirage Blue. We're probably down to 3:1 here on the mix, 3 parts Dark Beige, 1 part Mirage Blue. And we're going to start to map out where the light falls on the skin. So that blue is going to start becoming more prominent. Okay, back over onto that shoulder armour. Now here's the first part of the universal highlight, and what we're going to do is we're going to take the Komodo Khaki that's used on the headdress there, the horns. We're going to inject that 3:1, 3 parts Ranger Green, which was the base tone, 1 part Komodo Khaki. So we're using a highlight colour which is a base tone above it. So we've got that kind of integrity across the areas. And now we're back up onto that, those horns in that headdress. Now this is Green Stuff World Zombie Flesh. And within the cream and off-white tones, again, this is a cool tone, and this allows you to start pick out the details. This is our first highlight. And don't forget, this video really, I'm just showing you how we start to set up and render the cold theme throughout a model, while still allowing us to apply some variation. Now back onto the materials, this is where we can really start to use the universal highlighting technique. This is the Mirage Blue, which appears in the skin. You can see it quite obviously now in that cold skin tone above where I'm working. And this is Chancellor Blue, which was the base tone, and this is mixed 3:1 with Green Stuff World Mirage Blue. And again, we'll gradually highlight up over several other actions after this. I'm just showing you the very primary stages of laying out a cold theme. And when you see this character in the final shot shortly, you'll see how we've managed to achieve a very cold temperature layout, very simply. And there she is. Have great fun. Experiment with temperature. See you again soon.